Welcome in to the 48 Minutes podcast on Believe, presented by BetOnline. I'm Ross Geiger, the former NBA video coordinator, having spent time with the Bucks, Suns, and Knicks. And I'm joined alongside Bruce Bernstein, our four-time Emmy Award winner who spent more than 3 decades at ESPN producing NBA shows, SportsCenter, and soaking up knowledge from the best hoop analysts in the business. Also joining us, per usual, is the 2-time Emmy Award winner, Michael Worldby Freer, who is a senior writer at StatFactor, specializing in writing advanced statistical NBA reports for various announcers across the league. And tonight, we've got a special guest returning to the show, and that is Kevin Winter of ESPN Radio, who is a studio host for MLB, NFL, college football, basketball, and, of course, NBA coverage. This is episode number 114, the Scotty Pippen Jr. episode, as he wore number 14 as a member of the Lakers in 2023. And tonight, as of taping, Pippen Jr., who was just named to the All-Summer League first team along with teammate Gigi Jackson, is participating in the 2024 NBA Summer League Championship game in Las Vegas as the Memphis Grizzlies take on the Miami Heat for this year's Summer Crown. Before we get any further, just a quick reminder, BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything online sports betting. Right now, you can receive a 50% free bet of up to $250 on your first deposit to bet on anything from the Olympics to baseball to Formula One racing. BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker, or unwind with one of our over 150 slot games. Head to the website today to get in on the action. Use promo code BLEAV, that is BLEAV, for your 50% free bet credit on your first deposit up to $250. BetOnline, the game starts here. And Bruce, before we get started here tonight, I'll let you give tonight's guest a very warranted welcome back onto 48 Minutes.
First of all, I would like to register a complaint before we get started here. Ooh. You have 2 Celtics fans on this show, and show number 114 is not in honor of the great Bob Cousy.
We're keeping it relevant.
The hardwood. The Houdini of the hardwood. What's that?
We're keeping it relevant. We're keeping it relevant. You know, it's going with tonight's summer league game, and we're in full swing.
That one left a mark, man. I'll tell you what. Anyway, our guest tonight, Kevin Winter of ESPN Radio, is a man for all seasons. You see what I did there? He has
Easy
called
boomer.
Pretty much. Yeah. He's called. I got marks all over me. He's called pretty much every sport there is during his legendary radio career. But we only want to talk hoop with him tonight. Kevin is the longtime studio host, as Ross pointed out, for the NBA on ESPN Radio, and I can assure you that this guy knows as much about hoop as anyone in the media, and he'll tell you what he thinks, too. Welcome, bro.
How you doing, buddy? Look, guys, I feel naked because, Bruce, you got Emmys. World B, you got Emmys. Ross, you work for NBA teams. Oh, I got ESPN. That's great, but I'm missing Emmys. I need Emmys. I need Marconis. I need something to bring to the table here. Come on.
I'll send you some of my confetti. How's that?
Thank you. Thank you very much. That's very kind of you, knowing that I was in Bristol, Connecticut for that. So, yeah, throw the dart back at me. We're just getting right into this. How you guys doing? You good?
Doing well. Glad to have you with us here, Kevin. So let's go ahead and get started. And we'll start right at the top here with Team USA, as they're, of course, playing some friendly games as of now in their showcase. And so far, they've been without Kevin Durant, who's yet to play a game due to injury. And my question to you is this. Quite simply, should Americans be hovering over the panic button with this star-studded team that they might be letting us all down this summer?
Panic button, I wouldn't say that. I did not have South Sudan up 16 at one point and then leading in the final 2 minutes on my bingo card on Saturday. That's for darn sure. Today's game, so be it. You mentioned Kevin Durant. It's 100% they're going to need him. I like this team. I like some of the way the players do fit together. This is going to rely on defense. I cannot believe we're saying that in today's day and age of basketball, but how do teams win championships? You got to play some kind of defense, whether it's in the interior or on the perimeter. You can't just think your talent's going to go out and beat everyone. And I know that people started talking about this team, guys, like the 92 Dream Team. Well, in 92, the world wasn't where it is right now. in terms of basketball talent, right? You didn't have these kind of players who can compete with you. They can compete, and they want to beat your butt now. In 92, they had no shot. They wanted your autograph. Now they can hang. So hang over the panic button? No. I don't know if they're going to lose a game in the knockout in the group stage. Well, there might be some squeakers. There might be a lot closer games than we anticipate. That's my thought.
Well, watching them against Germany on Monday afternoon, I mean, they had their hands full for the second straight game, okay? And, you mentioned South Sudan in a squeaker that they won on a clutch LeBron James game winner. Well, on Monday afternoon, it was LeBron again. Just, he scored the first bucket of the game on that alley-oop over his head dunk, and then he scored like 11 points in the fourth quarter, including every big play down the stretch. So, I guess whichever team has LeBron James, it's like in the NBA. When he's on your team, you have a shot at the championship. When he leaves your team, you're probably in the lottery. So, luckily, they're not in the lottery with this crew.
And with LeBron, go ahead, World B.
No, Kevin, I was just going to ask, the roster makeup of Team USA, there's a lot of veteran players, if you will, with LeBron, with KD, with Steph, for example, Drew Holiday and others. And there's a lot of next generation players, I guess, the best way to put it, with guys like Tatum, with guys like Anthony Edwards. Do you see in this Team USA setup, do you see it kind of pass into the torch in terms of legacy or Team USA involvement?
All right, so Team USA, I don't think yet, because I think Steph can still be the middle ground for Team USA, and I think Steph's going to be the guy to rely on. Durant, like I said off the top, if I'm Steve Kerr, I play a lot of Tatum and Ant with Curry, KD, and Steph. I think that's arguably your best five. Obviously, you're small at that position. You're a lot smaller because you don't have AD, so maybe mix in a little AD. Embiid, I get, kind of like guys. I mean, I haven't been impressed and whatever. No, it hasn't been. Look, you're going to need some guard play. Passing of the torch, World B, I don't think yet, but I think what you can have is if LeBron and Durant can help show the way of Ant and Tatum how to do it, and maybe those guys hit some game winners and be the stars in some of the knockout games. Okay, that's where it is. We're going to show you right now how to do it because you guys haven't played at this level, on this stage yet. So let's see what happens now. That's that'd be my thought.
Now, Kevin, as we are talking about the roster makeup and some of the rotations, I've got a two-part question for you. What were your thoughts on Team USA selecting Derrick White over Jaylen Brown? And how do you feel about how Jaylen Brown responded to not being selected?
I don't mind what Jaylen Brown said, because if you consider where your position is in the NBA, what he thinks he is as an individual player, I'm good with that. I'm absolutely good with it. If he wants to go after the shoe company, by all be it. You want to bark up that tree? Hey, man, that's on you. Okay, you've got your accolades as the Eastern Conference Finals MVP and in the NBA Finals MVP. All right, so we're good there. Selecting Derrick White, from what I understand, this was Grant Hill's option all along. Like, that's what he wanted, even back in the wintertime when the rosters were coming out. He wanted someone that if they had to, and if you notice the game against South Sudan the other day, Holiday and White are all in the game on the end of the game, guarding the perimeter players. That's what he wanted. So that's kind of where I guess I wasn't shocked because we thought it was coming. But the more you think about it, I probably would have looked at a kid like Brunson. I'm not going to lie. I think if you go for deserving, forget Jaylen Brown, I think Jalen Brunson deserved it more. Wow. And I'll be perfectly honest.
Was his hand healed? I mean, is he?
See, that's another question. I don't know, but maybe you say, look, we would have gone with Jalen. We would have gone with Jalen Brunson. That is, but he can't go, so we're going with Jaylen Brown. I mean, I don't know what that does. However, it works out with White. I'm not surprised because this is what we had been hearing. So when it came down, it's what we expected.
for a guy like Derrick White, I mean, you talk about a late bloomer. I mean, he's like, this is like, it's hard to explain. I can't think of another player that's kind of had this trajectory, where he was kind of, started out in Division II, whatever, went to Colorado. I guess my thought there is that when you go through the San Antonio system, it must help grow you in a lot of ways because, pretty much everybody who's come through there has been a winning player.
I would 100% agree with that. I mean, look, I remember hosting the NBA draft the draft lottery 2 years ago when the Spurs got awarded Wemby. And when we realized San Antonio's in the top 3, we're not sure how much time. I think Andre Snellings was on with me as our analyst, just kind of going through each team. And I said it before we go back to hear Mark Tatum announce the top 3. I said, wouldn't it be ironic if San Antonio gets the top pick? Because you just reinvigorated Greg Popovich. That's what would have happened. He's a hell of a teacher. You don't need to learn anything else more than if you play under Greg Popovich. So on that, Bruce, on that point, you're 100% accurate. And you find guys in San Antonio, they become perfect fits elsewhere, unless Pop has got a roster that he said, nope, we're buying now. But for right now, if we've got to sell, then that's where it's going to be. And I think Derrick White has been the perfect fit in Boston ever since he got here 2.5 years ago.
Now, Kevin, before I let Bruce ask you about your Celtics experience in the postseason, I know he's itching to do so. You brought up Greg Popovich. You brought up the Spurs. So, real quick question here for you. Chris Paul added into the mix there in San Antonio. Do you see this being a success with him playing starters minutes, or is this a little overhyped right now with him just joining forces with Popovich and he still might just play like 20 or so minutes?
Define success. And that's what I'm going to throw it back to you. Are we talking
borderline all-star puts up top 5 assist numbers with Wemby?
I don't think that level. Okay. I mean, in part because I think the West is so deep. For him to crack that top 15 again, that's really, really hard. On the other side, if he were to do that, Ross, I wouldn't call that a success. I'd call that a failure because you're taking points away from Wemby. Because I know what he said in his introductory press conference, that I'm not here to be whatever he said, and another coach.
Yeah.
Bullcrap. You can say that in September and October. Now talk to me in January or February when you're 20 games to 30 games, you're 20 games under 500, or 10 games under 500 in the West, but you're down at 11. Talk to me then, because at that point, it's time to put a suit and tie. It's time to play that role again.
All right. Well, listen. Speaking of playing roles, tell us a little bit about fanboy Kevin and what it was like hosting the NBA Finals studio coverage on ESPN Radio. Obviously, living your best life when it comes to something like that. And I also want to talk a little about the ESPN Radio crew because, they're just freaking awesome. But let's start with you. What was it like for you, Mr. Celtic, to be right in the middle of that action?
Sucked. I hated it. Here's why. They had to win. They had to win the championship. And as a Celtic fan, I hated this playoff run because there was no margin for error. And hearing everyone pick against them, you start thinking, and you hear people bring up reasons why Dallas could beat them or why the Pacers could give them trouble. Yeah, in hindsight, you look back and go, you guys nuts. What are you doing, right? You give it one of those. But when you stop and think about it, you went, okay. And then you see that they could have lost game 1 against Indiana, could have lost game 2. If they lose any round, even the finals, guys, it sucked. It's a waste of a season. And as a fan, I hated it. And I wanted every game I did, I wanted them to be up 20. Because I did, because I didn't want to deal with the stress. PJ would always bust my chops the night they're getting blown out in game 4 by 30 or whatever the hell that number was. Kesty says to PJ on the air, Bruce and Ross and Mike, he says, I think we got to hide the shoelaces from Kevin. But you want? I'm thinking, yeah. It's game 1. We're going back. But now, if that's game 5 in Boston, and now it's 3-2 going to Dallas, damn right you're hiding the shoelaces from me. Like, we got problems. So, as a fan, I enjoyed it when 000 hit the clock, or when Kyrie actually went over to the sideline to shake everyone's hand. I went, holy bleep. They're gonna do it, and then the young kid in me, I in 2022 I was in San Francisco and in Boston for that world title run by the Warriors for that championship. The ending stunk, I get it, but you can kind of see it coming. Golden State's a good team. This team had to win, and so I hope I get to enjoy some more because now they got one. Now I want to see what happens to them, and maybe. I don't know if it's possible. How much freer do they play with? Like, how much more freedom do they play with? Because now they've got it. So that was my experience, guys. And 000's on the clock on that Monday night. I was happy. That was about it.
Hey, Kevin, we've seen, it's been a while since we've seen the team repeat.
Yep.
And every year in recent years, we see a team, the Bucks come in and win, and we think that's the start of something. The Nuggets go and win last year. That's going to be the start of something because they got their best player in their prime, basically. Where do you see the Celtics going forward? They re-upped everybody. They signed everybody to big bucks here. The NBA may have to invent a third apron for this for this franchise somehow. But where do you see this team going forward as objectively as you possibly could be?
And by the way, I like that, Michael. Look, in the Eastern Conference, everyone forgets about the Bucks. I know what Philly did. I know what the Knicks did. I would have loved to have seen Celtics Knicks. I think that would have been great ratings. I also think it would have been fun basketball. I think the Knicks could have got a game, unlike Indiana, even though Indiana had a game that has choked it away. We forget about the Bucks. I'm very curious what Yanos does and how Yanos looks, guys, right? I'm curious year 2 of Giannis and Dame together. I think the Celtics can still win the East. I don't want to say easily. I think they'll be a little bit bigger of a challenge, but until Philadelphia shows me something, I'm not going to consider them real contenders. Until Joel Embiid is healthy in the months of April and May, I'm not going to consider them contenders. I know that's harsh. So be it. That's what it is. Some people don't want to say it. Until he's healthy, at that point in time, I'm not going to consider him contender. If he is, okay, we've got issues, right? Like the meaning not we, but everyone else in the NBA has got issues because they're a damn good team. But if he's not healthy, and I know you added Paul George and Maxey, is that enough? I don't think so. So I think they could still win the East. I'm curious about the West. When I signed off with Monica McNutt the night of the finals, when we finished up the postgame show on that Monday night, we asked I said, what are you going to remember about this season? We'll get into that in a minute. You guys kind of hit on it a moment ago about a passing of the torch. But the other thing I said is, look, next year, I think we need Celtics Nuggets. I think for 3 years, we've been kind of waiting for Celtics Nuggets or at least 2. I want to see Celtics Nuggets in the finals. I think that's the matchup we've been waiting for.
That might be the matchup we can't win, though, because we've never quite figured out an answer for Joker. Not that anybody else has.
Bruce goes we. Bruce goes we. I love it. Oh, I see it, buddy. I see it.
Shit, man?
I see it.
I want to talk a little bit about your colleagues and my friends and occasional colleagues at ESPN Radio. Mark Kestinger, we love the guy, friend of the show. He's been on here a couple times. Just the best. But PJ Carlesimo, okay. PJ Carlesimo is the Nolan Ryan of Mater D whisperers, okay? His record for most restaurant hosts he knows by name stands at somewhere just over 5,700. So he's a little bit short of Nolan Ryan's strikeout record, but, he's still an active player. Tell us what it's like to plan a post-show dinner with PJ Carlesimo and walk us through what that's all about.
All right, so let me give you a couple here. We were at the All-Star game back when John Barry was with the team, was with our broadcast team. So it's Kesty and John Barry. And when we traveled for the All-Star games, especially let's call it All-Star Friday night or All-Star Saturday night, We're in the middle of, so I'm up in the press box with Mike Susi, who was the producer at the time, and PJ. PJ's my analyst. So we're in the hockey press box because they don't put us down low. And I think in the middle of the dunk contest, we would sit down right away. Everyone gets on headset and PJ says, okay, who's in for dinner? We don't have this isn't discussed at noontime. It's discussed when we get to the arena. Who's in for dinner? All right, we all raise our hands. We figure it out. Okay, so we've got 9 or 8, whatever it is. Now I got to find a place open. He's making calls in the middle of either the rookie sophomore game. He's making calls in the middle of the 3-point contest or dunk contest. Of course, you can't hear shit. The arena's loud. Everyone's going crazy. Then it ends. Things get tossed up to us. Like on the night of the All-Star game, we have to do a post-game show. PJ looks and says, K-Dub, can we hurry this bleeping thing up? We got to go to dinner. So my favorites, though, are when I traveled, and hopefully we get to do it again. When I traveled for the NBA Finals on any off day, 2 years ago, Kesty had to call Game 7 of the Celtics and Heat because Mike Breen got COVID. So Mark Jones gets bumped up to do the television call because it was on ESPN. Kesty slides in because that series, the Warrior series, I forget who they played. That series is done. So Kesty comes in, and then he's not going to travel out till Wednesday. So he's flying in Wednesday. PJ and I are already in San Francisco. We go out to dinner. Kesty's getting in late. It's just PJ and I. Having dinner with the old curmudgeon, it's great. He wants a wingman. And I just love picking the brain of guys who've been there before, especially in the game of basketball, because I love it. I grew up on it. I mean, hell, I remember I'm 12 years old when Ramil Robinson's, I hope he doesn't see this, when Ramil Robinson's hitting the free throws against Seton Hall. And he's 2 points away from winning a national championship at Seton friggin' Hall? I remember that, guys. And so just hearing them talk and stuff like that is I love it. And then every place we go is Italian. I am a horrible Irish person. I hate corned beef and cabbage, but I love Italian. So you want to drag me along for Italian. My favorite part is when at the end of the night, I go to take out my credit card. And if it's just he and I get, put that shit away. I'm paying. I'm like, okay, great. I got a free meal.
Yeah. That's an old school coach right there, though. Old school coaches always picked up the dinner tab. I mean, we worked with Paul Silas for a year back right after he left Cleveland as a coach early in LeBron's career. And he'd come into the studio and do NBA Tonight with us. You know, we had a bunch of people. He would always buy dinner. He'd pull out like $300 and give it to some PA and say, go to Outback and let everybody get everything that they want. Coaches, old school coaches are like that. They know an army travels on its stomach.
Yep, agree.
Now, Kevin, before we hit the break here, I'm going to ask you my big question of the night. And since you're a Celtics fan and a loyal Twitter X follower of the most mysterious NBA fan on the planet, I've got a question you certainly didn't have on your bingo card tonight. And stop me if you know who I'm referring to. Super serve, full perform, all fans know. That is Boston Twitter fan Yanos. Is this a real person?
I have no idea. That dude is either ham-cocked every night, doesn't know English, or whoever there is, that person is either a genius or shit-faced. I swear to God, I don't know. I'm Bruce going to spit on straight. I don't know, but guys, I love that. I love him come playoff time. He's a good laugh.
He's a great laugh.
Janos is a great. As soon as you said the words, I had no idea, Ross. But when you said Janos, I know exactly who it is. It's great. I love it.
He's a Boston legend these days. So
it really is, man.
Yeah. And with that, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break and come back with you to talk about some of the NBA offseason storylines with Kevin. And we're back here. Let's dive right into things here. And let's get started with the LA Clippers, Kevin, as they're set to play inside the league's newest and highly anticipated NBA arena next season. But the new arena seems to be like the only impressive aspect of their offseason so far. They let Paul George walk while re-signing James Harden. They recently shipped out Russell Westbrook, and they didn't just ship him out of town. They actually sent him to a West contender in the Denver Nuggets. Obviously, he had to get waived by Utah, but the whole plan was for him to sign in Denver, which seems to be a problem. And then they've signed a bunch of role players with questionable pasts, whether that be on the court play or off the court decisions. So would you say at this point the Clippers are still a serious threat out West?
Not even close. Not even close. And to me, it almost seems like, well, that's the Clippers that we all grew up loving, right? Though we grew up watching this miring and just misery. Drafting Michael Olowokandi, number 1. I hate saying it because I'm afraid I don't know. It looks like Steve Ballmer's intentions are good, right? In trying to make the Clippers themselves and their own identity. That's genuine. Getting Kawhi and Paul George together. It was a great shot because Kawhi's coming off just one of his most impressive runs that he has. Well, here come the injuries and here come the problems with both of these players. So, I mean, losing Paul George, it happens. Not getting anyone back, that's the problem right now. It sucks for the Clippers because you do got that new place. It does look like it's going to be a great venue, and it would be fun to have an NBA Finals there, or I know they have the All-Star game. I think it's next year. I think they go to the Intuit Dome next year for the All-Star game. It's going to look fun, but I just hope it doesn't become an empty space. And I hope Clipper fans show up, but I'm not sure having James Harden and Kawhi at the top of the marquee is exactly the way you want to go. I'm curious your thoughts, guys.
PG and Russ out. Derrick Jones Jr., Kevin Porter Jr., Mo Bamba in.
Who?
That is what we call a net negative. Okay.
Yes.
You've got an aging big two, Kawhi and Harden. They can't carry this team even to the conference finals. But I will say this. I know we bash Summer League a lot around here because we make fun of it. But young Jordan Miller has been breaking out for those guys in the Summer League. I think he helped make Russ sort of expendable. Some people, I read somewhere, someone actually is comparing him to a left-handed Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, which, that might be a little tap the brakes, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, but let's go across town, okay? Let's go check in with the Lakers. They haven't done a whole lot in the offseason. D'Lo is still there. I know that they'd like to try and figure out a way to get him off the roster and move on, but so far, no good. Connect looks good. Bronny's a project, but I think a worthwhile project. I see some glimmers of hope for him being a good player. And look, LeBron James, even at age 67 and in his 49th NBA season, all right, I'm not going Joe Biden on you here, okay? I know he's not that old, but this guy looks like he could play into his 50s. I mean, unbelievable. Unbelievable.
All right, hang on. So, yes, he does. But now he has to do it over the course of an 82-game schedule. And don't tell me and by the way, he did last year. So I'm going to kind of kill my own argument there because NAD, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, they played a lot of games last year, more so than I think many were anticipating. But that West is so deep. Who are they bringing along with them? I did like the pick of Dalton Connect, but I'm not sure you can do that. And with the roster you have, I'm not sure you can win 3 rounds of the playoffs just to get into the NBA Finals and set up a date with either the Celtics or the Bucks or the Knicks or the Sixers. I don't think it's possible with that roster. I think the days of LeBron, as long as he's in LA with this Laker team as presently constituted, his days of winning a championship are long gone. In fact, his days of making the NBA conference finals may even be gone. It's sacrilegious. It's sacrilegious, by the way, to say it on my network. It is. I could get fired.
I won't send Pete Saccone a copy of the show. Don't worry.
No, hang on. Pete's fine. Don't send it the first take. I'm curious your thoughts, guys. I'm curious.
As far as the Lakers go, it's the Lakers actually were a much better team last season than the previous season that made it to the conference finals in terms of numbers, in terms of victories and everything. It's just the ability to compete for a championship in that conference is so difficult.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
You're asking your best two players who do not have the track record of extended time spent on the court, the nice way to put it, being in the lineup. You're asking them to really be in the lineup for 80% of the games next season in order to compete. That's asking a lot from those two players who, when they're on, can be two of the top 10 players in the league still.
Now with me, Kevin, I look at the Lakers. They obviously played better last year, as Will B alluded to, and a lot of that had to do with Anthony Davis's availability. He played more games last year than he had in the previous seasons. Now, my concern with that is the fact that we look at Team USA playing this summer. Anthony Davis is part of that team. He's not getting any rest off those legs this summer. And after what we've seen from Joel Embiid so far, who kind of looks out of shape out there, I think Anthony Davis is going to start playing a lot more than we might first anticipated with Embiid kind of showing his struggles with this team, especially down the stretch. So am I going to bet on the Lakers getting 2 straight seasons of healthy play from Anthony Davis? No way. I mean, I don't wish that upon him, but I just don't see it.
And then, you brought up a great point, and Ross, I agree with you completely. And for all the good that the Lakers had a year ago, what did they finish? 7th? I can't remember. They had to fight like hell to get one of those 2 home court spots in the play-in tournament. I mean, actually, it was worse. They didn't have to go to New Orleans. They had to go to New Orleans. They had to help Zion. They wouldn't have even been there if Zion didn't get hurt, because Zion was killing them that game. I forgot about that. So for all the good that they did a year ago, that's the best they came up with. I just don't see it anymore. And by the way, we could put the Suns in that group. I'm not sure we could put Steph there yet, but man, it may be close.
Hey, Kevin, now one of the other teams that we expected to come out of the West was probably the favorite when the playoffs began, were the Denver Nuggets. And now they've gone ahead for the second straight year, basically lost a key member of their rotation, this time a starter and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope or whatever. Where do you see – I'm of the belief that while it all depends on Joker, it always has for years. And the numbers when he's on the court and when he's off the court are ridiculous in terms of offense. But their starting lineup was a big part of their success, the continuity. That starting 5 played the most minutes of any 5-player unit last season, and the numbers offensively were tremendous. But now you've chipped away just not a major piece, but a important piece of their lineup. Where do you see the Nuggets? Where do you think they stand right now heading into next season?
I still think they're the number 1 team in the Western Conference. As much as I'm not a Russell Westbrook fan, Bobby Marks said this, and I tend to agree with him when Bobby was on the Summer League broadcast evaluating the trade right away. Now, your second lineup, the Nuggets had a very inexperienced bench, and it didn't give them a lot. And World B, as you just said, it relied a lot on their starting lineup. Well, now you've got Russ coming off the bench, and you can just play Russ with the bench guys and let Russ do what the hell Russ does, which is take the damn ball to the hole. Don't let him settle for a jump shot. Let him just absolutely run the show. That's the way where Russ is best and how Russ can best operate. Let him be that guy, and maybe he can give you 12 to 15 a night off the bench, somewhere in that neighborhood. And if you do that, you're going to get one of those other kids to come along for the ride, develop a jump shot. I think that will allow Michael Malone to have a little bit more flexibility and not rely on Joker and Murray so much as he had to. Because also, let's remember as well, last year in the NBA was about the year of attrition. I mean, Murray was hurt too. And if Jamal Murray isn't healthy, that I don't care how good Joker is, that team's done. Yeah, in the day and age of the way the NBA is set up now, where you need top 2 guys, you got to have 2 greats. Who's the old Jazz coach? Jerry Sloan said this. You need 2 greats of good and everyone else to win an NBA championship. That's what Jerry Sloan said. My buddy Ian Fitzsimmons, who covered Jerry in Utah, he knows it very well. 2 greats are good, and then everyone else. Well, if you don't have that second great because they're hurt, you're screwed. It's real simple in the NBA these days. You're screwed. There's no way around it.
Hey, real quick on Russell Westbrook. given that he's now been a part of the Jazz franchise for about 2 weeks total, does this automatically qualify him to be announced as when they announce Utah Jazz legends in the next 10 years or whatever when he comes to town? They do a promotional video, a tribute video for him.
You want to, in today's day and age, World B, everyone gets a tribute video. Everyone gets a trophy. Yeah. Everyone gets a trophy, and everyone gets a tribute video. Okay, let's just call it that. Yeah,
and everyone gets a max deal too. You see Evan Mobley?
What the hell is that?
Plus.
Oh my God!
I know. It's like, and you get a max deal, and you get them. It's like the freaking Oprah Winfrey show.
Tell me your league has too much money given to, and you just got a $76 billion deal. Tell me your league has too much money going to players when guys like that are getting a max deal. I'm not saying he's not good. I'm not saying he should get a big contract. 260 potentials, $270 million.
Yeah.
No. Sorry. Congrats
for the oft injured Evan Mobley. I might add.
Congrats. You're the guy they chose along with Donovan Mitchell to get the max deal. And this is what happens. Ross, you may know this. I know you said you were in your video, but you've been in organizations. You know how the money has to get doled out, right? So what you have to give this contract to someone, correct? You have to give it. Yeah. So they chose you. Congratulations. But man, he ain't living up to it. There's not a chance he can live up to it. You almost set the guy up to fail. And it sucks. I hate that.
Yeah. He's laughing, though.
I would.
Yeah.
It's guaranteed.
Yeah. Guaranteed, no matter if he scores 25 points or 5 points. But sorry to cut you off there, World B. I'll let you talk about another player about a big-time contract.
Oh, well, I mean, if it's not the Celtics making big deals, it's the New York Knicks there just down the road between OG Anunoby and Jalen Brunson, who didn't sign a super-duper deal, but that's the one making all the news. What was your take on his decision to leave potentially hundreds of millions of dollars on the table?
I would have done it. But I also said this. My dad used to be a town moderator in a town, and he said when you had a discussion come up for hundreds of thousands of dollars, that always got shot down by town voters because they can relate to it. When you had a discussion come up of millions of dollars, that automatically just passed through because you can't relate to it. So I'm not going to turn down. I'm going to accept $150 million because I don't even know what that looks like. Let alone $200 million, right? I don't know that. I'm going to gladly take it. But I said, as an NBA player, I don't know if I would have. I applaud what he did from an NBA standpoint, for a non-selfish standpoint. But the immediate spin of World B, I don't know if this was you, but I know it is your Nick ilk fans of that same liking who immediately say, "We're getting Giannis." Good God. You guys, you people who do that drive me nuts. So in that vein, I understand what it created and what it left on the table, but now you got to do something with it. And we'll see right. You have to go out and make the adjustment, but by being as good as you were last year, and then hopefully in the same era this year, maybe you can get that free agent now who comes in and says, I'm going to be the guy to put you over the top.
Yeah, I said last week on our last episode, I mentioned how this put the pressure solely on the front office and ownership of the Knicks now to produce. Jalen Brunson basically is in the clear here as far as long as he produces anywhere close to his level of last season. This puts the onus on the front office to put a team that can compete with the Celtics basically in the East. That's where the goal is for them, I would assume.
Yeah, I would assume completely. It puts the onus – the team is already assembled, at least this year. So now it's the onus on the players to prove it and stay healthy and do it. Okay. Then next year, that's the big offseason that has created now for the Knicks. That's what Jalen Brunson said is next offseason, we're going to figure out what you guys are made of. I think that's what he has done.
Last week on this show, I put forth a theory that I felt like Jalen's, leaving the money on the table was a great act of sacrifice. It was a great act of leadership. But from the standpoint of no good deed goes unpunished, I was thinking he might hear about this from some other players, maybe even from some other teams saying, dude, you're making me look bad in front of our fans. Now, if we don't leave money on the table to help our team, they think we're a bunch of bums. Here's a little elbow when you go to the hoop.
Bruce took it to the extreme. I like it. I appreciate it.
You're not getting an elbow from Evan Mobley, that's for sure.
No, he'll break his arm and be out for the season.
He's gonna give you a pat on the back.
Exactly.
I would not have been surprised, Bruce, if you got a call from the NBA Players Association. I mean, I remember go back to 2004, not NBA related, sorry guys, but when Alex Rodriguez was going to get traded for Manny Ramirez to come to the Boston Red Sox in 2004, Alex Rodriguez said, I'm going to cut half my $250 million contract with the Rangers, and the Players Association jumped in and said, no, you're not. And thus the trade was voided. So I would not have been surprised if the Players Association said, what the hell are you doing, man? That you can't be doing this. We need you. You're a face of the league. We fought all these years, as I just screamed at a moment ago about all the money that the league has. We fought all these years for you guys to have this ability, and you gave it back. Like if I'm the player of the head of the NBA PA, I'm not liking that move whatsoever. As far as the relationship of the players, the one who's really going to be thankful is the guy who signs the next contract and says, "Hey, buddy, thanks." The free agent they get.
Real quick, okay? Because
Yeah.
I know we've got a little more ground to cover. I'm wondering what you think about this whole Klay Thompson to Dallas thing. I mean,
Love it.
What's his role going to be? Is there room for a splash brother to play with the closers?
All right, so here's what I'm thinking. And I was thinking about this afternoon because I knew we were going to talk about it. I think Luka Doncic, my biggest takeaway from the NBA Finals, guys, aside from the Celtics getting over the hump, was Luka Doncic got taught a lesson. And the lesson was, you're good. You're great. You can't do it alone. You cannot. And I think Klay can walk in and kind of went that way from afar and said, that's why he went there. And now Klay has an opportunity to make his own name away from Steph and Draymond. Granted, it would be with Kyrie and be with Luka, but Klay can go in and say, okay, now everything that you just did, you need to learn to back away a little bit and trust us. You got to trust your teammates. Kind of like Phil Jackson to Michael Jordan. Who's open? Paxson, give him the damn ball. Who's open? Kerr, give him the ball. I think a little bit of that can come in. So from that standpoint, I like it. Will it work, Bruce? I don't know. That is a lot of basketball talent on that floor and on the perimeter. I do like the kid. I do like the young kid out of Duke, Lively, that they had down low. I thought he was outstanding in the NBA Finals. That kid's going to grow up immensely over there. And I think that experience was best for him. Luka got taught a lesson. Lively got shown, all right, this is what big-time basketball is all about.
Hey, Kevin, as a follow real quick on Klay, given his status in the league at this point of his career, because of his injuries, I mentioned in previous episodes, he's basically just a three-point specialist at this point. You're paying $25 million a year for a guy who took 60% of his shots from three-point range last year, a career high. Does that work for you? Is that what they envisioned for, when they got him? Is that the plan, do you think, in place? Because he's not really much – he's not the Klay Thompson we saw of old at this stage of his career.
I'm with you. I don't think he's the defender, World B, that he used to be. I think it is to give Luka that drive and kick option. When Dallas gave Boston threats, it was the drive and kick. I know the Celtics had a really good defense, but the way to beat Boston was drive and kick because they did not switch. They did well on those screen rolls with the big men. They covered them. Now now put that threat of a driving kick out there. And that's what Klay Thompson is. He's the threat of the driving kick on the outside. And if you can do that, that's a way you can help get yourself to the next level.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what the Dallas Mavericks do bouncing back from their finals appearance. I'm a huge believer. If you look back in history, whether it be the conference finals exit or a NBA finals exit, the learning lessons, as you alluded to with Luka, how powerful that is for teams. A lot of teams don't win it all their first year getting to the biggest stages. However, that next year or the year prior, if they have that same group, look out, because those are usually the most deadly teams, like the Celtics were this year.
Agree. You've been taught a lesson. How do you take that lesson and apply it to yourself? And it's been over the course of history, guys, whether it's the Celtics and the Pistons to the Bulls, whatever it may be, you go back through the history of the NBA, it was always, you're going to beat us, and then you're going to trip up. But there's some team there's a hump you got to get over in the NBA. And for the Celtics, it was to get over the championship. Now, Dallas, Dallas is kind of on that level now. Dallas is at the level of the Celtics. We got to the NBA Finals. Damn, they were really good. How do we fix it?
Yep, no doubt. Well, we're going to take our final break here and come back to you with our final thought.
And as we get to the last couple minutes of the show here, we couldn't do a 48 minutes this week without talking about the passing of a mythical member of the NBA family. I'm talking, of course, about Pat Williams, the co-founder of the Orlando Magic. A great family man, 19 children, 14 of them adopted, mostly from foreign countries. He was an early believer in the three-point shot. In fact, he drafted the original 3D Dennis Scott with the number 4 overall pick in 1990. But Pat Williams is just such a beloved character in the NBA family. Do you have any memories of him, Kevin, or any stories you've heard about him that you'd like to share?
No, so memories, yes, watching the draft as a kid or growing up. Who's the crazy guy who just went bonkers that he got the number 1 pick in back-to-back years? I understand you're happy, but who the hell is this guy? I actually didn't know of him, Bruce, until, if you get a chance, and I'm not shilling because it's my company, but This Magic Moment 30 for 30 documentary, which is up on ESPN Plus, it's under this 30 for 30 sections. It's on the Orlando Magic. And that documentary about how that whole thing came about, it's awesome. And it gives a lot of light to Pat Williams and who he was and how this whole thing got set up, because basketball in Orlando worked. And by the way, Pat Williams would love today's NBA, and I think he would actually be real proud of this Magic team because they're coming. That Magic team, I think, is going to be – they're going to cause – just like last year, they're going to cause some problems in the East.
When you mentioned, we talk about Pat Williams, people don't realize, his career, as Bruce mentioned, it's a long and extended one involving a number of franchise. His connections with Pete Maravich,
yes,
and then his connections with the Philadelphia 76ers. It's an incredible career. This generation or previous generation know him as the guy who brought basketball to Orlando, and that's totally fair, and he's responsible. But it's an incredible career that spans all the way back to this 60 in terms of his front office and behind the scenes stuff. It's really a remarkable career for a guy that unfortunately after he's passing we start to realize a little bit more. But if you're a basketball junkie like we all are, his career was a long time, extended decades.
It was. I agree.
Yep. And with that, Kevin, we want to thank you for joining us on tonight's show here on 48 Minutes. I'm hoping we can make this an annual thing with you. It's always nice to have you on in the summertime to kind of discuss the season and what you saw throughout it, as you obviously played a big part on ESPN Radio covering these games. So thanks so much. The only caveat I'd make to you is if Yanos wants to come on, I will replace you with Yanos.
Hang on. If he does, I want to eavesdrop on that conversation. Okay. I want to eavesdrop on that recording.
Well,
can we do a $5? We could probably do a $5.
Put Yanos right in the middle. Yeah, right in the middle.
Perfect. Sounds like a plan. So with that, we want to thank you once again, Kevin. And for that will do it for this edition of the 48 Minutes podcast on Believe, presented by Bet Online. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll be back with you next week to be sure you're up to date in 48 on all things around the association. Take care, everyone.